This is part 3B of a presentation on restoring water quality in Conesus and Honeoye Lakes. This part will focus on the data, reports, and water quality for Honeoye Lake. The representation of land use is an important part of the watershed model. This map shows the land use in Honeoye Lake watershed as determined by the 2006 National Land Cover Database. It shows a watershed which is substantially forest, which is shown here in green. Forests cover about 72% of the watershed. Pasture and hay, shown here in yellow, makes up about 9%. Cultivated crops, or row crops, in brown, cover about 2% of the watershed. Developed lands are shown here in the pinks and reds. They cover about 4% of the watershed. Much of the development is around the lakeshore and some of the major roads. Open waters and wetlands, shown in the blues, make up the remaining 12% of the watershed. At the south end of the lake is the New York State Honeoye Inlet Wildlife Management Area. There's about 200 acres of land showing up as agricultural within the management unit. We're working with our Region 8 staff to figure out how better to reclassify these lands. We're also working to incorporate the data from Professor Gilman of the Finger Lakes Community College, who's done a detailed survey of the land use in the watershed. So there are many years of monitoring data for the lake. Some of the most common measures of water quality which are collected are shown here. Total phosphorus is commonly measured, particularly at the lake surface. The Secchi disk, shown in the upper right, is the black and white disk shown in the picture. It is used to measure water clarity. Chlorophyll A gives us a measure of how green the water is. And finally, we have dissolved oxygen measurements through the water column, which we can use to identify if and when low dissolved oxygen occurs. We have water quality data going back to 1985 for Honeoye Lake. Shown here is the summer average total phosphorus concentrations. In orange are the data from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation datasets, and then in blue are the more recent data collected by the Honeoye Lake Watershed Task Force. Perhaps there's an increase in total phosphorus over the last few years, but that could also be just year-to-year variability. In general, concentrations are in the 25 to 35 microgram per liter range. This slide shows the summer average chlorophyll A concentrations. While it may look like there has been a recent increases in the chlorophyll A concentration, it is important to note that measurement frequency has increased over the last decade, such that they are more likely to capture the periods of high chlorophyll A. Sampling in the early years was less frequent and may have missed some of the higher chlorophyll A events. The models should help us figure out what's really the cause. On this slide is the summer average Secchi disk depth. This measurement is made by lowering the Secchi disk down into the water column until it disappears. The water surface is depicted at 0 and is shown at the top of this chart. The bars then represent how far down into the water column the disk was still visible. Larger values mean clearer water. There's less evidence of any long-term trends here. A lot of the differences here are probably just year-to-year variability. This chart shows a few dissolved oxygen measurements from 2014. As with the previous plot, the lake surface is at 0 at the top of the chart, and the concentrations are shown as you move deeper into the lake. By early June, shown in blue, we are already seeing no dissolved oxygen in the bottom meter or so of the lake. In July, shown here in green, we still see little dissolved oxygen in the bottom, but a relatively uniform dissolved oxygen profile over most of the water column. This is evidence that the lake may have mixed from top to bottom sometime between the June and July measurements. Shown in orange is the measurements from August. We again see no dissolved oxygen in the bottom, but now it extends up to about 2 meters. By mid-September, shown here in purple, we have a uniform dissolved oxygen profile again, indicating the lake probably mixed from top to bottom once again. But by the end of September, shown here in red, we again see the dissolved oxygen concentration decreasing in the bottom waters of the lake. So we see very clearly periods of no dissolved oxygen in the bottom of the lake, but we also see a lake that probably mixes from top to bottom on more than a few occasions. So we've gathered a number of data sets and reports to support this project. We have several Department of Environmental Conservation data sets, including our lake classification inventory, some data from our fisheries program, and from some special studies. We also have some data from our volunteer-run Citizens Statewide Lake Assessment Program, or CSLAP. The Watershed Task Force has provided us with a very valuable lake dataset covering 2003 through 2014. They've also provided us with tributary sampling reports from 2003 and 2004. We have the 2007 Nutrient and Hydrologic Budget Report and the 2007 Watershed Management Plan. We are also given the 2012 Stream Bank Erosion Study and the 2014 update of the hydrologic nutrient budget was made available, and we're looking into how we can incorporate as much of that work as we can. We also have the 2009 Stream Nutrient Loading Report. There's also been a lot of work already completed in the watershed, which we want to make sure we understand and account for. Both the Stream Bank Erosion Study and the Hydrologic and Nutrient Budget Reports will be very useful. Around 11 WQIP funds have helped address stream bank erosion and the construction of detention basins and vernal pools. There are also 2 pending grant applications to help with the Honeoye Inlet restoration and to establish a yard waste program. The local laws have been reviewed and strengthened for watershed protection. The continued monitoring of the lake is exceptionally valuable for this process. And the tributary nutrient sampling studies should provide us with some great data. So that sums up where we are at with this process and the data we are currently working with. An important part of this process is to reach out to you, the stakeholders, to get your feedback. So we would like to know how you use the lake. What do you think the water quality problems are? If there are some areas of the lake which are worse than others, if there's additional information you think we should have, and if there's any corrections you would make to the information we've shown here. To help gather that feedback, we've put together a short survey. The link is shown there on your screen. You can also contact me directly. I provided my contact information on this slide as well. So thank you for watching this presentation. We hope that you found it informative, and please feel free to contact us with any questions or comments.